presents Starbound Studios starring Maggy Martinez and the Hot
Welcome,
Seat
gentlemen,
Interview.
to the Hot Seat Interview.
Maggie, as always, it's great to be here and looking forward to another discussion here at the Hot Seat.
Maggie, as always, I'm thrilled to be here to engage in another wonderful conversation.
Definitely. This is the show. You need to look into it. We're going to be discussing about housing in the U.S., and this is a big problem. Daunta Democrats point to stagnant wages, rising rent, and underinvestment in public housing, a key drivers of this crisis. What do you believe the federal government responsibility is in fixing this?
I know in one of our previous shows we talked about how the president was going to look into what a particular governor was going to do, but I would like for our president to take a look into what the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens, is doing with housing. How the city is playing a very active role in providing over 150,000 places of residency for those persons who are considered low income. And with this, we're seeing how it's curbing homelessness in the city. It's giving many people a chance or a pathway to becoming a homeowner. And I think what the city is doing could easily be adapted by the federal government. And so if you ask what is the government's position in housing, let's look at providing subsidies, providing tax breaks, providing assistance. And there you will find so many opportunities to provide housing for the American public.
Well, tune in every Thursday on demand, the Hot Seat Interview with Maggy Martinez, streaming on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, and share the show. And tell your friends, because it's very important that we have a show where we bring the facts and only the fact. This podcast is designed to educate and inform you, bringing your honest conversation and fact-check perspective from the Democratic and the Republican voices. I'm also the author of The Secrets of Campaigning. So you think you could run, available on Amazon. Get it from somebody that is running for office or for yourself. You never know. And it's only $25. So donations are always important. So you can send them to starboundpr.com, because that way we can continue with the show and buy the equipment that we need, okay? Well, David, Republicans often say that overregulation is a burdensome zoning laws are the real issue. Is loosening government control the answer, or just a handout to developers?
This is one of those double-edged swords. I'm going to say it can be a little bit of both. First, let's look at it. Regulation came about to help separate industrial areas from residential. Reason being, why would you want to buy a house, raise your family, next to a chemical plant? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it has good substance here. Now, I say it has good substance, not complete substance. Zoning laws, of course, which we know dictate, Daunta had been around zoning for a while, which dictate what can be built where, and part of that standard urban planning tool has been here for over a century. Whether it's single family, detached, versus apartments and townhomes. We look at what the density plan is for the area. What can the schools absorb? Traffic, water, sewer, and especially now with data centers, electricity, right? Mm-hmm. Look who's going to pay for all that. Right. So now I can go back, and I'll give kudos one time to the Biden-Harris administration. Remember, under their federal strategic plan, they wanted state and local governments to reform their zoning policies.
Yeah.
Now, and I agree with that. I believe a lot of the stuff the federal government, their responsibility should be to make sure everyone is on a level playing field. No one should benefit or should have one-sided advantage versus another. To me, the local governments, your local authority, the citizens need to be involved. That is your best interest. What are the local regulations, and do they support the different types of housing? Now, I will credit Andre Dickens. I like the guy. He took some empty lots and bringing in, say, the old those big cargo crates, the connexes, for example, and turned them into places where people could actually call home. Abandoned buildings. Now, depending on the cost of reservation, not reservation, but renovation, would it be cheaper to take the building down, or due to the age of it, or is it new enough where it can be modified into affordable housing units for the people that need it?
And David, I will point also to a study that the University of Georgia has produced, where they were going to take a building that was on their campus that is no longer in use and convert it into a 34,000 bedroom unit to curb the homeless issue that's going on. I believe it's in Oconee County.
Hopefully 3,400 versus 34,000?
No, 34,000. 34,000, which was going to totally eliminate homelessness, I believe, in Oconee County. Now, if this could happen just so we gave an example of a city, Atlanta, a county, Oconee County, all within the state of Georgia, how much more could the federal government do across the breadth of this great country?
But like you said, all this has been local.
Local, absolutely.
And I do applaud and appreciate where the local government and the citizens can work together. And I think period, that's got to happen. There has to be a lot of communication, coordination, and cooperation between the citizens, local government, and business for these things to be successful.
Well, Daunta's critic says that federal housing subsidies can create dependency and disincentivize development. How do you respond to that argument?
Create dependency. When we talk about those tax incentives, I think at one time there was a down payment assistance that was given to Americans to help stimulate. We still saw less than, I believe the study showed, 250,000 individuals that bought a home. I believe it was between the year of 2008 and 2010, somewhere in that time period. And so if you want to talk about dependency, to the point of what we said in a previous show, it seems like when things are created for the benefit, the majority of Americans are not able, for whatever the reason, and we can take a lot of time to discuss the whys and why it is and what did not happen and who should we hold responsible. Yes, we can do that. But moreover, I would like to talk about the fact that how can you create a dependency when the majority of the people are not privileged to participate? And so it's ridiculous, Maggie, to sit here and to suggest that we're creating a dependency when so many Americans still are not even homeowners. It's ridiculous.
Well, that doesn't apply to homeownership to a point. I mean, we can look across the board. How many people, and we've been throwing money at this since the 60s, in Chicago, the famous Cabrini Green, how many generations stayed there most of their lives, never got out of it? That's what I mean by dependency. You know how to work the system. Not everybody does. And unfortunately, some people want to just get by.
And to that point, we just talked about that. Yes, you will have a certain subset of individuals, but that does not create a dependency for the majority.
Well, the Trump administration, David current approach focus on removing regulatory barriers to development. David, do you believe this will actually lead to more affordable housing or just more luxury condoms?
We're waiting to find out. I mean, we look back in 1990 when a request to HUD Secretary Jack Kemp from George H.W. Bush wanted them to identify the excessive rules and regulations and red tape that add unnecessarily to the cost of housing. Now, we understand housing codes are there for safety. They've been developed over the years. Do they add cost? Yes, they do. Is it red tape? Yes, you have to have building inspectors sign off on each step by step. And I know this is in construction. Every time you do something, an inspector has to come off, sign off on it. But here again, that's to protect the buyers and protect the people and the citizens, to make sure that there were no shortcuts taken in the building to affect your safety. Now, remember, material costs go up, density, your building size, your square footage, impact fees all add cost to the structure. Now, can that price out some people of the market? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, no developer is going to put in a $500,000 condo in an area where they have $200,000 houses, townhouses they can't even sell. It's not going to happen. Now, looking at this, a lot of your environmentalists on regulations, they push for regulations because they want to reduce congestion, maintain green space, and look at the cleanliness of the water and the environment around them. So are some excessive regulations proposed? To a point. I believe we do need regulations, but I do think that each local government needs to reevaluate as they've been asked. Like I said, Trump asked Ben Carson to do the same thing, to identify and remove obstacles that are going to inhibit the growth of affordable housing. So this is recent as Ben Carson was asked to do this as a HUD secretary.
Well, Daunta, homeless is on the rise in cities across the country. Should the federal government mandate solutions at the local level, or are we failing to act boldly enough on the national scale?
I think it's evident that we're failing on the national scale when we're seeing homelessness rise in just about every metropolitan city in this country. And so, yes, homelessness is on the rise. There is no doubt about it. The cost of rents has almost doubled in most metropolitan cities, pricing out the marginalized, the disenfranchised. Those are the people that are suffering. We've talked about things like gentrification. We've talked about things like driving many of them out because the taxes have become unobtainable for many Americans to meet. And so with all of these things in place, should the federal government mandate? Absolutely. There is no reason why a woman who stayed in her house, who's now a widow, is priced out of her neighborhood because some developer wants to come in and put in $1 million condo, affecting the entire tax code for that zip code, that one or two condos, which ultimately prices her out, and now she's homeless.
And I think with all the homeless and stuff like, as we have talked about, remember, homelessness is multifaceted. We know we have talked about mental health. We have watched, and we have a good mayor, I'll tell you right now. He's a Democrat. I like the guy. Mayor Dinkins does a fantastic job down there in Atlanta. He has helped turn this around. But even he has admitted, and some of his staff, that they have put people that are homeless in some of these shelters. Through one way or another, people have, made the choice to come back out.
Absolutely.
To not live on the street.
Absolutely.
However, he is addressing some of this. Substance abuse can lead to homelessness. So I believe we have to tie in medical treatment also when we look at homelessness to help solve this problem.
Dante, what will a bold Democratic housing plan look like in 2025, and how will it protect both renters and homeowners?
Well, I think that Democratic plan, what most of the congressional committees have talked about, was raising the down payment assistance to enable many people who are on the cusp of qualifying. I think that one of those type not preventative, but rather, I guess I would call it some form of assistance. Now, I know many on the other side of the aisle will call it a handout, but I think when we're talking about giving the average American a pathway to becoming a homeowner, then I think we're moving in the right direction. And so I've seen that a lot of the congressional committees have at least introduced this thought pattern of increasing that and prolonging that to help many more Americans become homeowners.
Well, David, to question 6, how do you balance compassion and unhoused people with concerns from community that don't want shelters or subsidized housing in their neighborhood?
NIMBY, not in my backyard. I'll use that term.
Yeah.
It's even called NIMBYism, and it doesn't matter. Across the country, we can see this. It doesn't matter if you're in Illinois, Connecticut, Maine, California, New York, Ohio. A lot of people understand that there's a problem, but they do have a withdrawal effect, if you will, about having a homeless shelter put in their neighborhood. They're worried. I mean, you can look at, former President Obama even addressed some of this stuff. But we can look at the low income is going to depress your property. Your values could drop. It also affects municipal tax revenues on low income housing. Because remember, you're bringing the overall price down. Now, and it affects school districts. A lot of people are worried about school overcrowding. Now, other results have coming in. I know Virginia posted a little fact that 0.07% increase of the retail housing property values. That's the amount it went up when a little bit of low-income housing was added due to the fact that it reduced homelessness. You gave people a place to live. They could go out and get a job and now contribute to the economy, contribute to the neighborhood. So here again, I mean, even Dave Chappelle, he was a vocal opponent against an affordable housing project in Yellow Springs, Ohio. So a lot of people, they need more facts, and I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown when you tell people in the neighborhood, we're going to bring a subsidized housing to your area. We're going to put in apartments here. We're going to put in townhouses. I think there's a fear of the unknown, and that definitely affects the legislatures and the local government's ability to bring affordable housing to some areas.
Well, this is for David and Dante. Dante, first, give me your closing statement, and how can we ensure working families are not priced out of the market?
Well, Maggie, we've already seen most families are already priced out of the market. And so now we've got to look at, as we've been saying throughout the course of this dialogue and this conversation, we have to look at city governments, county governments, who are unclear as to what type of federal participation will increase their chances to help more citizens. But with the counties and with the cities, yes, there is allocated tax dollars that allows many of these municipalities to engage in providing affordable housing. And so with that, we continue to lean upon people like the mayor of Atlanta, the Honorable Andre Dickens, and what he's doing. We applaud the efforts of at least conducting studies that the University of Georgia is participating in and other universities across the country. And so maybe it is that the federal government will not take the lead on this, and that's okay. What I really am excited about is that there are Democratic people and committees that are looking forward to tackling and addressing homelessness and low-income families in these United States of America.
David.
Well, I'll piggyback right off that. I know in 2022, former President Obama, he was at the American Institute of Architecture, and he did ask the state and local governments, where he admitted there's a lot of regulations that have come from the left, from his own party, that is putting up roadblocks to affordable housing. And he asked the locals to please go back and look, do some evaluating, check on, open your own closet, see what's in there, reevaluate what's on the books. Now, between that and some of the, I'll say, NIMBYism, we've got some work to do. Now, what we were pushing for is a lot of the tax credits for these small businesses to go in and, as we've talked about, renovate some of these buildings that have been abandoned that could be used for low and affordable housing. If the building is empty, it's already there, it's already built. We already have the infrastructure. The electricity's run, the water lines are there, the sewer lines are there, the utilities are there. So we don't have to dig up the streets to put more. We don't have to add any more capacity. We already have these. I think it takes a good study, as Daunta mentioned, to go in and let's reevaluate what's going on in our urban areas, what is available in as far as structures that we already have now, and how can we utilize them, bring them energy efficient, make them safe, and help to reduce the shortage of low-income housing we have now.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to the hot seat. Well, whether you're renting, owning, or trying desperately to do either, today's conversation makes one thing clear. Housing is not just about buildings. It's about justice, dignity, and the right for a stable life. Is this market issue or a failure? A federal responsibility or local one? Whatever your take, the crisis is real, and the solutions will shape the future of every American neighborhood. I am Maggy Martinez, the Hot Seat Interview. Until next time.